What's up everyone, and welcome back for another video here on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. If you don't know who I am, hello, my name is Monet. I am 27 years old, and here on this channel I am documenting my financial journey. So if you are new, welcome. We love new visitors. Make sure if you're interested in cash envelope stuffing, budgeting, and just trying to learn how to get your finances together, if that is something that you're into, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Join the family. We would love to have you. But if you are one of my returning subscribers, thank you for coming back. You know, I appreciate you all. And within today's video, we are going to be budgeting for the month of August. We have officially reached August, so I'm going to go ahead and close out my July budget, see how I did, and we are going to set up for the next month. We have a lot of things going on, so if you're interested in seeing that process, then of course, just keep on watching. All right, so as normal, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put up on display my budget template that I am using. If you are interested in this template and you feel like this is something that would be helpful for you, it is available for a download within my website and within my Etsy. All you need to do is have access to Google Sheets, and you can go ahead and use this budget as well. The links for all of that is down in the description. And once again, I really do appreciate all the people that have been using it and said that it's been helpful. This is my first full month of it being out, so definitely let me know how you guys are enjoying it. And again, I just appreciate the feedback. But let me go ahead, stop rambling, and let's go ahead and see how I did for July. All right, so here we are for my July template. We have, of course, set up for the budgeted amount, and now we're gonna go ahead and fill out our actualized. So first, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and filter on our remaining actual and make sure that all of the numbers reflect that. So looking at our income source for July, I am paid bi-weekly, so I was paid twice this month, and these are my amounts after my 401k, tithe, healthcare, and all those other deductions. So for the month, since I am salary, it did come in exactly how I predicted. So $4,352 is what was deposited into my account for the month. So we see here we have this money to work with, and let's see how I was able to use it. So we're gonna first go ahead and look at our bills, and right off the bat, we have my rent. So this was my first full rent with my new rent amount. I thought it would be $17.25. I didn't think it would be higher than that, but I don't know, I must have messed up somewhere because I guess for the summer, the water and sewer is just higher than what I'm used to, and I just didn't account for that. So I did budget $1,725, but my rent actually came to $1,738. So once again, my rent number is my rent number itself, the amenity fee that my apartment complex charges, and then my water and sewer is what is variable. So sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's less. And in this case, it was just higher than I expected. So the next bill that we have here is for my internet. That is a fixed bill. So $56 is what I budgeted, and $56 is what it came to. Next, we have my electricity. I did budget $95. I thought I was budgeting on the high end, and that was nice to see that I actually did budget a little high. I budgeted $95, but it actually came to $79, which is great because that amount basically offset for the rent, and it allowed us to make up the difference. So I am happy with the electricity being $79. I do think it was because I wasn't here for the first half of the month, so my electricity really shouldn't have been running because I was gone for 2 weeks. But I'm going to take the win where I can. And then the next thing that I have here underneath bills is my rollover. This is basically any leftover money I have after I've finished putting all of the other numbers. So whatever is remaining, I usually have like a few dollars left, and I just add that to my rollover, and that feeds into my buffer that is within my checking account. So we will come back to that. And now we can get into expenses for the month. So for July, in terms of gas, I budgeted $55, but I actually only gave myself $50. Again, I didn't need as much because I wasn't really here that much to drive. But next we have my spending. So spending, I did budget $250. for the month, and I'm happy to report that I was able to stick to that. I did bump up my spending because I knew I was going to do a little bit more with me traveling, so I'm happy that I didn't have to take away from my savings or anything else to make sure I still stayed in line with that. Following that is my groceries. I budgeted $280, but I gave myself $290, so $10 more for that. And then toiletries was at $90, but I brought that down to $80. I just felt like I was going to get a little bit more food, so I just swapped the $10. And some people think $10 doesn't make a difference, but I was able to get like 3 extra things by adding the $10. Following that, we have clothing. Clothing I budgeted at $60. I actually spent $65. I did go on a little clothing spree that will be reflected when we do my expense check-in, and next month I'm gonna have to budget even more for clothing, but we'll get into that once we get to August. And then the last thing under expenses was eating out. I budgeted myself $80 and happy to report that I was able to stick to that $80. So in terms of expenses, that is how I allocated my paycheck for that. Next, we can get into my savings, which mostly encompasses my sinking funds. And I like to really commit to these and keep them at exactly where they're budgeted. I already kind of planned out my sinking funds, so I know that in order for me to stay on track, I should, continuously give them the amount that is needed. Mainly the one I'm variable on is travel, but for the most part, everybody else gets what I anticipated. So annual payments was budgeted at $60. It did get $60. Car maintenance was $40. It received $40. Car insurance was $80. That was $80. I pay my car insurance every 6 months, so I am saving up every 6 months to make the payment in full for that. Christmas gets a standard $20 for each paycheck, so that was $40 for the month. Gifts received $20 for the month. Household with $30. Medical did not get anything. And then travel, I budgeted $330 and I was able to stick to myself getting $330. And then lastly is my home fund with $675. So we were able to do $675 for that. So that's great. Across the board, I was able to commit to my savings. I really didn't want to touch them, so happy that I stayed on budget. And then the last thing that we have over here is investments for my Roth IRA. This is another one that is already in place for me to max it out by April of 2025. So as long as I'm consistent and keep giving the numbers that I know it needs, I will be on track. So for the month, I budgeted $384, and that is exactly what it got, $384. I do have a debt section, but if you aren't aware, I am debt free. So thankfully, I don't have anything to fill out from there. So if we look at my remaining actual dollars and see what I have left, I do have $5 sitting here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and dump that within my rollover and let that sit there. So then that gets me to a zero-based budget, which is what I am always shooting for. All right, so now that we have all of our numbers inputted, we can go ahead and look at our income summary, which, oh my goodness, this is a first for me. Normally this column shows the difference. So for example, if a category was higher or lower, it will be either green or red to signify the increase or the decrease, but there is no difference. So even with my adjustments within the categories, everything still panned out the same, which is great. That is a first for me. So that really speaks to how I am really knowing myself and budgeting to reflect my actual spending, which is great. So if we look at the income summary recap for total, we know I brought in $4,332 for the month. In terms of my bills, that was a total of $1,878. My expenses totaled $815. My savings totaled $1,275, and my investments with $384. Bring us to a zero-based budget. So if we want to look at that in terms of percentages, I like to look at my little pie chart and compare it to the budgeted versus actual. But as we know, it's going to be exactly the same because it's exactly the same as that we budgeted. But again, if you are interested, I try to follow the 50, 30, 20 rule, but in my instance, it's not exactly the same. I try to keep my bills and expenses at 60%. I know realistically, I can't fit my needs within 50%, knowing that it is just myself, trying to cover, and the world is expensive. So I shoot for 60% between bills and expenses. Savings is what I try to target at close to 30%, and then investments gets what's the remaining. So the pie charts are looking good there. And then if we look at the savings breakdown, I also like to come here and look at my savings and see who's getting the biggest pie. At this moment, I know it's always going to be my home fund, so that received almost 53% of my savings dollars. And then right after that is travel, which we know I am prioritizing. And then the rest are small amounts, but it's always still important. So the last thing that we can go ahead and take a peek at for July is my expense breakdown. This guy was used a lot this month. As I shared at the top of this month, I was gone for 2 weeks. So the first week I was in South Carolina and I spent some time with my mom for her birthday. And then the next week I was in Florida and I went to Disney World and Universal. So the majority of my spending that I put to cover those funds was within my spending category. So it makes sense that that is the biggest category for what I spent my money on. Spending, as we see, is sitting at almost 40% of everything that I spent for the month. And if we total up everything across all of my categories, that was a total of $1,210 that I spent within my expense tracker. So again, looking at some of the big things for spending, if we wanted to filter on them, one was my mom's birthday dinner. I didn't anticipate to spend that much money for her, but she did want to eat at like a hibachi restaurant. So I just covered the meal for both her and I for that. Another big one was we went to the wax museum when I went to visit her. So that was $57 that we took out for that. But I feel like those were the biggest things spent out of that category. The rest were for things such as me going to the movies and I don't know, buying random stuff that I really honestly can't remember. But in total, I know I spent $479 out of that spending category. Looking at gas was basically 6%, so I spent $71 for gas on that. The next biggest category after spending is groceries, so that was about 26% I spent for the month for a total of $310. And then we have toiletries coming in at $152 for the month, which was 13%. And then clothing was $100, and that was about 8.3%. And then lastly, eating out at $98, and that was 8.1%. So all in all, it is a heavier spending month than usual, but I was away, so that makes sense. As long as I didn't put anything on a credit card and I was able to stick to my savings goals, I am gonna take the win where I can and be happy with that. So the next thing that I like to do is look at my left to spend, because I do participate in the rollover method. So if I don't spend all of my money within these categories, I do roll that money into the next month. And basically what I have here for left to spend within these categories will cover me until I get my next paycheck. We have a decent amount of money. It is looking a little tight in some categories, but I'll be able to manage, and I don't really see too much of a concern there. Normally, if I see a big anomaly, this would be the time where I would reflect, maybe change some categories, give money more for next month. If you know your spending habits and you know you're going to need more money, just go ahead and give yourself more money up front, so that then at the end of the month, when you're looking over your finances, it doesn't feel like you're lecturing yourself or putting yourself in a bad mood, because if your setup wasn't realistic in terms of your budget, it's not going to be a good time when you're closing out the budget. But for July, I would say we did pretty well. And yeah, now let's go ahead and set up for August, because I am so excited for that month. All right, so here we are for August. We have a fresh new month, which is nice to see. I did go ahead and put in the categories. I always just copy and paste because it's basically the same thing for me each month. In terms of August for paychecks, I am getting paid on the 9th and the 23rd. So I have about one more week until I get paid again. And let's go ahead and budget this out. I am filtered on the remaining to budget, And in terms of my full-time income, it's going to be the same as last month with $4,352. I know it's a magic month for some people, but again, it's not for me. I'm always upset when I can't participate, but it is a regular month for me. I believe my next magic month is in November, so we're just gonna hold on until then. And plus November is my birthday month, so it's gonna be a real nice month. But getting into August, let me go ahead and set the scene of some events and things that are happening for this month because they will be reflective to the numbers that I'm going to put in. First things first, for August, I am going to a concert this month and I am so excited. I will be seeing Janae Aiko this month and I am a big fan of hers, and this will be the first time I'm seeing her in concert. It's on my bucket list. So I am covering myself in case I see some merch that I want to do and for any drinks or stuff that I want to eat at the venue. So I will be keeping that in mind. I also have my 10-year high school class reunion that is happening this month at the end of August. And I will be flying back to Jersey to participate in that. So being that I'm not going to be at my house, I do have to be aware of my spending. I will be staying with my best friend, so I don't anticipate spending too much, but you know, you never know. We might go out. I'm going to see my high school friends that I haven't seen in a while. You never know how the day is going to go. Third, I do have a family event that I will be attending this month. It is a wedding that will also be held in Jersey. So I want to make sure I'm covered for that. And then the last thing, which is the big thing, is that I'm going on my cruise at the end of this month. So yeah, I'm going to be away from my home, I think, for 3 weeks at the end of August to accommodate for, you know, all these things if I'm not going to be here. So I really got to make sure the money is in line and I am not spending frivolously on, you know, things that I don't need. So with that in mind, I do want to let it be known when it comes to my shop, since I am a one-woman shop, I will be closing my shop sometime towards the middle of August, and it will reopen in September because my cruise comes back, I believe, September 5th. So around that time is when I'll reopen the shop, but of course do know that I will be shutting it down because of that. So with all of that fun stuff, let's go ahead and see how we are going to plan out the month. And we will get started with our bills. So first we have rent, and with last month being more than what I anticipated, I do want to try and bump this up just to cover my bases if that happens again. So I am going to budget $1,745 for my rent. Following that, I have my internet, that's going to be $56. And then I have my electricity, and I'm going to go ahead and budget $100. Again, I don't think it'll be that high because I won't be here, but you never know with electricity. I seriously cannot figure out how they even measure that, but we're going to put $100 and hope for the best. Rollover we will come back to, so we will leave that at 0 and we'll move along to expenses. So for expenses, I did keep in mind that if I'm not going to be at my home for that paycheck, then I necessarily won't need that much for this expense. So example, for gas, I normally give myself $60 for the month, but since I'm only going to have to cover basically gas for 2 weeks, I'm only going to budget $30 for the month. Now, in terms of my spending, I normally average about $150 is what I typically give myself, but I'm going to go ahead and give myself $400 just to cover myself for the concert while I'm in Jersey, for my class reunion, and for any last expenses that I would need for the class reunion or the wedding. I want to take everything out of spending. The only thing that's like a vacation that I don't want to touch for spending is the cruise. That is being funded with my sinking fund. So any money that I spent on the boat or, you know, preparing for that, that will come out of the sinking fund. But everything else I want to stick to spending. And I think with the concert and everything, $400, I can't do no more. That is all I'm allowing myself for spending. All right, so next we have groceries. This is the same concept as gas. I will not be here for 2 weeks, so I'm just giving myself $150 to cover for the 2 weeks that I am home. Toiletries is going to get $100. I did book myself an appointment to get my nails done and my eyebrows done, you know, for my events. I want to look cute. So toiletries is getting a little bit more, and I also have some makeup products and stuff packing for like toiletries and stuff in my suitcase that I will need to replenish. So $100 I think will be good for that. Now we have clothing. Clothing, I'm gonna give myself $130 for the month. And that is because I already have my eye on a dress that I'm interested in for my class reunion. So I'm gonna, pay for that with this paycheck once I receive it. And then I gave myself a little bit more just in case I want to get like some accessories. And I still want to shop a little bit more for my cruise. I believe I want to get like one more bathing suit / beach outfit. So $130, that's all I'm giving myself for the month. And then eating out, I'm gonna give myself $80. I feel like it's fine because when I go to Jersey, I'm not really gonna be eating out, I don't think, as much, because I'll be staying with my best friend and she loves to cook. So I feel like I will be covered for that. And while, at the wedding and all that stuff, like food, I feel like food would just come to me, honestly, in Jersey. So I'm just going to treat my eating out as a normal expense as if I'm still here. So I budgeted at $80 like I normally do. All right, so after expenses, we can move on to savings. And once again, I'm trying to keep it as I normally would. So annual payments is budgeted at $60, car maintenance $40, car insurance $80, Christmas is $40, gifts is $20, household $30. Medical, I'm putting $0, but I think at the end of the month, it probably will be different. I did recently go to the dentist and sad to report, I do have a cavity. So going back to the dentist, I am going to have to pay for that treatment. I'm on the fence if I want to take it out of my medical sinking fund or just, pay for it out of like one of my paychecks so that I don't have to touch the sinking fund. I'm undecided as of right now. I kind of want to see how the month pans out. Like, for example, if I don't spend as much as my spending as I anticipated and I have like, a little bit more money left over, I'd rather allocate that to the medical bill. And I also don't know for sure what I'm going to be charged yet until I do the service. So right now I'm going to put medical at $0, but knowing that I probably will have to pay for that at the end of the month. And then here we have travel. Travel is getting $325. Keeping that at the regular amount I've been giving it, just to cover me for any last minute things for the cruise and make sure I have everything paid for and don't have to stress about it on the boat. Because as long as my sinking fund is, funded to a good amount, I can enjoy myself without worrying about putting anything on debt while I'm on vacation. And then here we have my home fund. Home fund is going to be budgeted at $575 for the month. I did bring it down versus what I normally do. Again, I had to make adjustments within my budget because it's a heavy spending month. But I still think $575 is a good amount, and it's still keeping me on track for the goal that I'm trying to hit by the end of the year. So I think that is fine. And then we have my investments for my Roth IRA. I'm going to budget $384 like I normally do, and that will have us covered there. So debt is $0. And looking back at our remaining to budget, we do have $7 sitting here. So we're going to go ahead and dump that within my rollover to get me to a $0-based budget. So that is how I am going to budget for August. Looking at our income summary, let's see where that puts us. So for bills, we're sitting at a budgeted $1,908. Expenses, we're showing with $890. Savings at $1,170. And investments with $384. In terms of a percentage and looking at our pie chart, that makes bills about 44% of my income, expenses at 20%, savings at 27%, and then investments almost 9%. So again, pretty good with what we have, and we will see how the month pans out. The last thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is set up my expense tracker. Right here is the rollover balance. This is where I input whatever I had left to spend from July. So for gas, I had $46, spending had $56, groceries with $65, toiletries $18, clothing 15, and eating out at 32. So once again, that will cover me until my next paycheck on August 9th. But that is all I have for August. I think it's planned pretty well, and that will be a wrap on that. All right, you guys, so again, there you have it. That is how I'm going to do for August. Let me know how you are setting up for August, and if you have any recommendations or, some things within my budget that you can suggest, feel free to leave those down in the comments. I do want to try and leave the comments open for like a helping hand. I love it when people ask other questions and then other people comment on their questions, and it just forms like a little group community. That is what these videos are for, and that is what I aim for. Again, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not perfect. I am just learning as I go and doing the best that I can do. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know by giving the video a thumbs up and showing that you are still enjoying this type of content. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. You made it all the way to the end. If you are enjoying what I am creating, I would love to have you a part of that. But with all that, you guys, that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and I will catch you all next time in my next video. Bye, guys.